Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Strickland. I'm your host Shwin, and this is episode 302. I am not joined today by my co-host Prez, who is doing things that are much more important than podcasting about basketball. Although ball is life, so who can say for sure? But I am joined by a longtime guest of the pod. You know him as at Frank Barrett 119 on Twitter. His real name is Geoffrey Rasmussen, the poker extraordinaire. Jeffrey, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. Just thanks again for having me on. Excited to talk some Knicks with you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. And before we get started, I do have to make a few announcements. The first being that the Strickland has an Instagram. Check that out. That is at thestrick.land on IG. We are posting all kinds of new content on there, so check that out. The Strickland also has a YouTube channel where you may be watching this podcast. If you are and you haven't already done so, please hit like and then subscribe to the channel. That would be a huge help to us. The Strickland also has merchandise. Jeff is wearing some of it. He's kindly modeling it for us today. But we also have more merch on there. All kinds of t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, even coffee mugs and water bottles. You want it, we got it. Check it out. You can access that on our website. And then finally, the Strickland has a Patreon, which you can subscribe to. There are a number of different tiers. There is a $6 tier that gets you access to Pod Strickland, this podcast that I host every Friday with Prez, except when he ghosts me. You also get access to the Strickland mailbag hosted by Andrew Steele, a.k.a. Doug, a.k.a. the Doug Bag, alongside Dallas Miko. That comes out every other week. You also get access to the Strickland Discord, where the conversation never stops. There are further tiers. There is a $9 tier that gets you access to Strick and Roll, my solo pod, where I rant and rave about the Knicks even more. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by Matthew Miranda, one of the best in the business. There are further tiers. There's a $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, $100 tier. Those come with a variety of additional benefits like listening on our pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-hosting a podcast alongside yours truly one day, whether you choose to subscribe or not. None of this would be possible without you. So without further ado, we are going to get started, but actually a little bit further ado, I do have to mention that BetOnline is your number one resource for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines and the latest match reports for this year's NBA playoffs. BetOnline is your sports intel headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your insider sports wagering needs, from basketball, MLB, NHL hockey, golf, to UFC and boxing. The fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games, available to play right from your home. Get into the action today, so head to the website or use your mobile device to join, and be sure to use our promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, to receive your 50% bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts, and we are now going to start the podcast officially, not the capitalist ad reads that I have to do. But I wanted to start with this because there's like a lot of, I don't know why there's a lot of people like very angsty about the offseason, which generally I understand. Like, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. All we have are various reports to react to. Just feels very odd, the amount of negativity I've seen about this team and this offseason and where everything is positioned. But nonetheless, I wanted to bring this up. All right. So these are the players that made the all NBA teams this year. Okay. And I want you to answer which ones you would unequivocally take as your number one offensive option over Jalen Brunson. All right, we're good?
Yeah, we are. Can we add a caveat? Like, is this specifically in the Thibs system or just in a vacuum?
Your system. However you would play.
Okay.
All right. Giannis.
Yes. This is like as a player or as a
number one offensive option.
Yeah, I would still take Giannis. Yeah.
Okay. Tatum.
Yes.
Embiid.
Yes.
SGA.
Oof. Yeah, yes, I'd take SGA over Brunson.
Okay, that's the first one I'm going to say no on. I'm also, I'll put with Embiid, I think it's a coin toss.
Yeah.
And I think with Tatum, I'll give it to Tatum, but there's an interesting discussion to be had there, which we can get to a little bit later.
But we're just talking about offense, right? Like we're not talking about
Yeah,
overall as players.
yeah,
Okay.
just offense. Because if we're
Can I
doing
just
if we're doing overall players, like those first three, obviously, yes. Over
right?
Brunson.
Can I just say about Embiid and Giannis what I find about them that makes them so interesting and like tantalizing as a Knicks fan when we hear about like who are the players we should go all in for? Having Brunson already established on the team, if you were to just like draw a player, like who is the perfect fit for Jalen Brunson, you would draw a big man who can do more than the center we have now, and whose only weakness is, okay, we're at the finish line, somebody take us home. Like Brunson and Embiid or Giannis is like actually the perfect two-man pairing in today's game, because even though, especially in Thibs' system, they would sort of work independently of one another, they would still find a way to maximize each other's skill sets, if that makes sense. Like Brunson could still do Brunson stuff, and Embiid or Giannis could still do Embiid or Giannis stuff. And because of the system, the Thibs system that isn't going away, I'm not sure there's any other stars that could do that. Like I don't know if anybody else could do that near to that degree. So I find that really interesting. And
No, I totally agree. Yeah, so I agree. Tib system is weird, but I still think like and this is not to pretend that like systems matter, but I do think like at a certain caliber of player, regardless of system, you should have a baseline of just like it doesn't fucking matter. Which like to Brunson's credit, this is why I want to do this, because I feel like as I'm watching the playoffs unfold, I'm like, is he like a top 10 offensive player? Is he like a top 5 offensive player? I don't know what the hell I'm watching. All right. So okay, so we did SGA. You said yes, I said no. Luca.
yes, but I don't know what the ceiling is for how he plays basketball. That's a totally different discussion. I'm just gonna say yes, but I don't feel great about it because
He shouldn't have been first team All NBA. That's all I'm going to say about
he
that.
definitely shouldn't have been. But
Yeah,
like
that was like an embarrassing.
there's a bigger problem here that as the league gets deeper and as the league gets smarter, like LeBron, like LeBron would have had to figure it out sooner than he had to if his career started later. His whole style of basketball, basically, the league figured out the style. Obviously, they didn't figure out LeBron, but because he's superhuman. But I don't know how repeatable what he's doing, what he did is from a team success standpoint. And I think we're seeing that with Luca, because look at Luca's, the non-team based individual stats. They still pop, like if you look at all the box score metrics, it still says, oh, Luca had a really great season, but it's like you just can't have a heliocentric player to that degree. It just suppresses teammates. The talent pool is too wide. And I think Luka's going to have to figure some stuff out the way LeBron did in Miami if he's going to get back to the team success levels he was at in 2022. And I view that as sort of a Cinderella run. Like I don't even see that as sustainable. I think he really has to figure some stuff out on the offensive end.
Yeah, and I think again, the margin for him is not even as high as it was for LeBron, because he's just nowhere near the defender LeBron is.
Nor the athlete.
Yeah, exactly. Or just generally being in physical condition.
Right.
But I'm happy that he posted a video of him running a fucking staircase this summer. Congratulations. Second team. All right, here we go. Butler.
No.
I agree. Again, just to make sure everybody understands, this is just offense. This is not all around. Just can you be the best offensive player on a contending team? Okay. This one.
I mean, I think I'd take Brunson. I think I'd take Brunson over Butler in general, but that's just me.
Oh. All right, we'll talk about that. Okay.
I know. I'm just not nearly as high on him as you are. Great run though.
No, I mean, I think Brunson is putting himself in a conversation. Again, this is why I wanted to do this because I think the conversation is really interesting. Okay, this one I'm already marking you down as no. Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, no. I do like Jaylen Brown more than the average person, I'd say. I think he's getting a lot more flack. And that ball handling video that Ace Zulo put out where like he was stripped going
That's
left
so
8
funny.
times or whatever, that's no good. But I do think he has another leap available to him.
Jokic.
Yes.
Okay. Spida.
No.
Ooh, same. Um,
I should think about that
Steph.
more. I'm sorry. Yes, Steph.
No,
Mitchell's closer.
definitely not.
Mitchell's closer to a yes. I shouldn't have been as dismissive. He
I'm
was
pretty.
really good. He
He
was
was really
really good
good.
this season.
I'm pretty dismissive of it because I think his spacing sucked. If you give Jalen Brunson that exact spacing, he has a better offensive series than Mitchell. Mitchell's in between
Yeah.
game. He doesn't go to it like. I think he's been what do you call it? Like he's been worry ball pilled too much because he like it feels like when I watch him, he's consciously aware of what are like high EV shots. And if you I don't know what he shot from mid range against us in that series. I would imagine it was very good because it felt like when he got into the mid range and pulled the trigger from there, he got to his spots and was getting clean looks and was hitting at a high clip. He just didn't do it enough, and I think he's been, Maury ball pilled where it's like, no, you gotta you gotta get into that fucking, you gotta take threes or you gotta get to the rim, and I don't know. When I watched that series, I was like, I think Brunson does a lot more with this team than you do. And now, I mean, can Brunson play with Garland? And that's its own separate conversation. But when we're just talking about offense, I think Brunson's proven now over 2 playoff runs here that, like, man, he didn't have the spacing this year that Mitchell had in fucking Utah. And his playoff run this year stacks up against any that Mitchell had, in my opinion. So I feel
Yeah.
very good about putting Brunson over him. Okay. Third team.
It's basically just like craft versus like Brunson obviously has the craft, he's got the footwork, he's got the mid-range game, but then Mitchell gets the rim better and he shoots better at pull-up threes. It's and I think they're pretty similar as passers, weirdly enough. But I think you could argue that Brunson is more suppressed by system. Like maybe we'd be higher on him as a passer, excuse me. If
maybe as a passer too. Who knows?
Yeah, as a passer too. As a passer, if he was incentivized and pushed to pass more, and he was in running more creative sets. So I'm not really sure, but I don't think we saw that much in Dallas either. But then again, obviously he was playing with Luka, so he was more of a secondary creator. So yeah, I think Brunson's small edge, but it's close.
Yeah. Okay. Third team, Randle.
Yes.
Oh, you mean no?
Yeah. I mean no. Wait.
Yeah.
I mean I'd take Brunson over Randle. So Randle is a no. Brunson.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. In retrospect, we probably should have done this the opposite way. Whatever. LeBron.
LeBron in 2020. Yes.
I know. I think this is. I'm gonna say no, but I don't feel great about this. I honestly just don't know how to judge LeBron in 2023 at this point. It's just really weird.
Yeah, I mean, he did just have 40, 10, and 9 on 1 foot, like on like 80% or whatever his last game was. Like,
yeah, I mean, he was really good. I don't know. I still, when I watch him, I'm like, it just feels like he's so dependent now on getting downhill. And like, I mean, he's always been a downhill player, which is fine, but I don't know. It feels like when you don't have, it really feels like he needs pristine spacing at this point to be optimized. And I just don't know what to do with that. Like, if you gave him the Celtic spacing, I don't know. He might like just still like he might average like 35, 10 and 10 or something, but that's just not like it's not a realistic scenario to expect that. So I don't know. It's he like you said, if you put him, you said yes, I said no. I don't really. I'm sure you would be the majority of people, which is fine. It's just it's again, he just breaks my mind in 2023. Like I don't really know where to rank him in anything. So yeah.
I mean, if you put him, if like just instead of replacing him with Brunson, imagine you put him in Randle's spot, right? And so the Knicks starting lineup is Brunson, Grimes, RJ, LeBron,
No, it'd be
Mitch.
Brunson. It'd be Brunson, RJ, Hart,
Oh
LeBron.
God. See, what's funny about that is LeBron would scrap that in 2 seconds, and Thibs couldn't say no. Like Thibs would be like, "But I like Josh Hart. He rebounds," and
Yeah.
and
Like,
LeBron would
do
just be
you
like,
like your job?
"Yeah." LeBron would just be like, "Fuck out of here." I think that first of all, I think they'd play off each other really well. I think LeBron is a much more willing screener than he's ever been in. Like we saw him running freaking pick and rolls with Austin Reeves and like trying to. So I think that I just think the offense would still naturally find its way to flow around LeBron, and it would be more Brunson benefiting from LeBron than vice versa. And I don't know how to make my argument better than that. I just think that even at 38 years old, he's still that powerful of a force. And it helps that he's just bigger. Like I know that's boring analysis, but like it's just really hard for Jalen Brunson to be a more valuable offensive player than LeBron James, even as good as he is. So yeah, I think it's LeBron, and I think it's less close than Jalen and Mitchell. Like I would go like LeBron, Jalen, Mitchell right below. But I think the gap between LeBron and Jalen is bigger than Jalen and Mitchell.
Gotcha. All right. Sorry. Sabonis.
That's so weird because he needs like such a specific system. I'd take Jalen, especially because of like the late game stuff, and like it's just so hard to tell how much Fox had to do with that and how much Sabonis. Like I know Sabonis is like the heart of that offense, but he still needs a Brunson or a Fox player to run those sets with. Like I know he had a bunch of cool guys like Herder and Barnes and Keegan Murray who are willing to do the handoff and willing to shoot threes at a crazy clip, but you still need a guy to like start it and to get those buckets. That's really hard. That's just a really hard one. Because to play devil's advocate with the point I was just making, I just listed a bunch of guys. Like there's a bunch of guys who could fill the Fox role. In theory, there aren't really many guys who could do what Sabonis is doing. So which is more replaceable? I that's really hard. I'm going to take Brunson. I'm a bit of a homer. I wouldn't fault anyone for just wanting to start with Sabonis and being like, I'll find my Brunson, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I get it. I personally think it's pretty clearly Brunson. Sabonis hasn't. I mean, his playoff performance this year was pretty bad. I know they were playing the Warriors and Draymond's a weird matchup and whatever, but I don't even think it's close. I think Fox was clearly the engine. I think that was revealed in the playoffs that Fox is the guy that when they're struggling, who are you going to get a rhythm? It's Fox.
Yeah, can I just push back on that for a second? I'm not. I don't want to underrate like Shaq here, but I would argue that Shaq was the engine. I wouldn't argue. I know Shaq was the engine of the 2009, the 99 to 2004 Lakers, but I'd also argue that like when things got tough, it was Kobe who went and got a bucket. Like whether it was because Shaq was afraid of being fouled. But if somebody looked at me and said they would take 99 to 2004 Kobe over 99 to 2004 Shaq, even just on offense, I would say they were laughably wrong. Like not even close, like just laughably wrong. So I do think it has to be a little bit more nuanced than that. And again, I'm not comparing Sabonis to Shaq. I'm not comparing Fox to Kobe. I just think it's kind of there are some parallels there in the sense of, yes, I agree that Fox is the guy who goes and gets the big buckets, and Fox is the starter of the engine. But what Sabonis does is just so unique. Like I do think there has to be something there.
Yeah. I would say that like the difference being if your baseline over the non-crunch time, non-struggle bus minutes are way higher than Sabonis, that's fine. But like, I don't know. He to me, I'm sorry. Like, I think he's kind of like a regular season merchant. I'm just going to throw that out there. I think he's a little. There's some Randle stuff with him. I'll put it that way. Okay. De'Aaron Fox.
He was so good this year, and he was so good in the playoffs. Um, Yeah, I guess I'm just gonna take Brunson again. I'm gonna be a homer. That's really close too. Man, the Kings are good. They have the greatest offense of all time. Like
Yeah.
that shouldn't be
Yeah.
that shouldn't be
I'm
slept
gonna
on.
take Brunson just because I've seen it deeper into the playoffs in different settings, so I'm just gonna trust that more. Fox is really good, and also like I know Fox shot the three well this year. I want to see that for another year. That's
I do
always
too.
been up and down for him. So
It was jarring to watch because me and Prez got into it on Twitter. Uh, I guess it was during 2021, 2022. Was that the year Fox was available, or was it the year before? Well, not available, but
it was
there were
last
rumors.
year. Last year.
Okay, and I was just like, you're never going to be able to build a great offense or great team around a small guard who can't shoot. That was basically the logic that I used. And like, I was like, yeah, I get he has popping athleticism. I get he's elite at getting to the rim. I get it. But eventually teams figure out how to stay in front of a guy and how to wall him from the basket. And you have to be able to make a shot. And Prez is just like, he'll figure it out, the free throw percentage, yada, yada. And like, Prez is really smart. So I was like, okay, like I disagreed and I was vehement in my disagreement. But this season, I'm always open to being wrong. So I was like, all right, we're gonna watch Fox some more. I swear to God, he never missed a shot when I watched the Kings. Like he was just making everything. And it's gonna come back down to earth, but it can too. Like he doesn't have to shoot this ridiculous level to still be a great offensive player. He can there is some regression in there, acceptable regression in there where he could maintain his value. So I'm excited to see it next season.
Word. I think Fox very interesting to see how he goes on next year. Damian Lillard. This one's very tough. I said
This is
maybe. This I put him in the Embiid one where I'm like, maybe. Now that I think about it more, I feel like Brunson. Like, if you're just talking about offense, like, I'm just gonna. He's better than Embiid. Yeah, I'm gonna make that a vote in favor of Brunson. I'm gonna put LeBron as a, a maybe.
You probably weren't for Embiid's MVP then. His defense wasn't good at all this year. Like people like that.
I was for it, but I was for it because I was just like, I'm not. I'm not really interested in giving anybody 3 straight MVPs, unless like if I'll put it this way, I know it's a regular season award, I get it, but the historical criteria for that award has been so fucking crazy that I find it was very annoying to me that it was just like, oh, like now that we have this amazing, truly amazing, like not saying this facetiously at all, now that there's just like an amazing white player, we can now get over the fact that we shouldn't be holding postseason, second round flameouts against these guys and awards voting years moving forward. Like I'm just like, if I'll put it this way, now that we like got this out of the way, I'm ready to give the whole, I'm ready to apply that standard now moving forward. Like we're good. Jokic can win the next 5 straight MVPs as far as I'm concerned. I'm good with that. But for this season, I was against it, and I did think I thought the year before Joel, I thought Joel really did deserve it that year. And I say that without suggesting Jokic didn't deserve his second MVP. I thought he was. I mean, I think I tweeted after the award was announced that like I would have gone with Embiid, but I have zero issue with Jokic winning because Jokic was totally deserving too. But I thought
just,
Joel led them at a point early in that season when like they were like 7-8 or something like that to start the year. They had the whole
yeah.
Ben Simmons thing going on, and I just felt like that was a team and a season that was, Doc was Doc. Like it was a team and a season that could have gone very, very like spiral downward. And I thought Joel lifted them at a point that like it just needed to happen. And I was very impressed with that. I know that Jokic, obviously they had a ton of injuries and I get all that. I just would have gone Joel the year before. That's just me.
Yeah, I agree. Embiid was closer to deserving MVP last season than this season. I'm curious though. Um, Besides Jordan and LeBron, who is anybody in NBA history who you think could have won 3 straight
Steph.
MVPs? That Steph in 2016, 2017?
Yeah. I mean, he's still the best player in the league at that point, in my opinion.
Um,
Like, I
Well,
feel like
first of all, I would argue Steph was. I mean, he was the best regular season player in the league, but I would.
well,
I
I
don't
mean,
think
that's
he's
the
ever
award
been.
though, right?
Yeah, no, it is. But um, I do think that similar to the LeBron 2011 season had extenuating circumstances because they introduced KD, and all of a
Right,
sudden, like,
but like that's my like. It's just weird to me that okay, so we're gonna punish like okay, LeBron can't win a third straight because he went to Miami and he played with Wade and fucking Bosh,
mhm.
and Steph can't win a third because he played with KD. But then it was like used against Joel last year, where it was like, oh well, they got Harden, so now Joel can't win MVP, and it's like I don't understand any of that shit. But Jokic this year they get Murray and Porter Jr. back, and it's like I don't know. Again, my point is like I just don't like the argument of like I think Rose actually deserved the MVP of the year he won because he was the like their offense was him. Like it was Tibbs.
Mhm.
We know what the offense was. The offense
Yeah.
was Derrick Rose, go do shit. And this is back in like, look at the front court. Their front court was fucking Boozer and Noah. And they had Keith Bogans in the starting lineup. If you talk about this is why the Morant stuff is always like, oh, he's better than Rose ever was. Look at the numbers. And it's like, just don't fucking talk to me. Like, you have no idea what you're talking about if you think that. The spacing, like bad spacing in 2023 is like think about our spacing, which we're like, oh, it's not good. Like it could be so much better. And compare that to like that fucking Bulls team. It's heaven. Like our spacing compared to that Bulls team is like heaven.
I
Like
will. I just want to say, if you go back and watch those Bulls highlights, you will be. It is. I'm going to use this word again. It is sort of jarring how much less intelligent the defenses are, how far defenses
yeah,
have come. Because me and you would sit there and watch the tape and be like, why the hell are they sticking to Keith Bogans like that? Like he obviously from a structure standpoint, it's like, oh, he must not have had space, and he didn't have great space. I'm not pushing back against that, but I would argue that he had better space than the roster dictated or the roster indicated that he would have, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and
Well,
so
it's the stuff that like you see that more in the regular season now. Like if he had
yep.
that roster in the regular season now, his spacing would be compromised way more. Um, like in the playoffs, when like you could see that in the playoffs, the teams would be like, okay, now we're going to treat Keith Bogans like Keith Bogans. Like Keith Bogans actually doesn't matter, so now we're going to treat it. But like it was, you wouldn't, RJ Barrett isn't a great shooter. He still gets honored to a certain degree in the regular season.
Yeah,
Like
he's not. He doesn't get treated like
yeah,
Alfred Payton.
yeah, it's not the same thing. And so like, but even in the regular season now, you compare him to like if he was Keith Bogans, they literally wouldn't defend him out there. Like they wouldn't even bother with him. But yeah, I mean, look. Anyway, bring this back. I don't even know how we got.
I just want to say also about the Rose MVP. I think Dwight should have won that year.
Yeah, that's the other guy that should have won. Yeah,
but I think something that the super analytical people miss is a point that you brought up, which is a really good point. They look at the 2001 MVP, the Iverson MVP, which Shaq should have won, but still, Iverson had a great season. They look at Iverson's season, they're like, oh, look at his efficiency. And more importantly, look at the team offense. It's sort of similar to the points you were making about Mikal Bridges, but obviously Mikal Bridges isn't anywhere near this level of player. But my point is, they'll say, look at the team offense and look at the team defense. These teams weren't great because of the offense; they were great because of the defense. And what the analytical guys miss about that, and I think it needs to be remembered, is the only reason these teams were able to play all these great defenders and enable all these great defenders to focus solely on defense is because they had a single offensive engine that could drive them to league average offense. And that is why Rose and Iverson were so valuable and why their teams were able to have great defenses. Like you can't just look at their stats in a vacuum. You have to look at how they were able to elevate their teammates. And both, I mean, there's a reason both teams, won. I mean, the Bulls won over 60 games. I think the Sixers almost won 60 games. And yes, they had great defenses, but like, don't be mistaken. It's not like anybody could have filled in and like, oh, they had a great defense, so they would have won 60 games regardless. No, you needed that driving force offensively to keep them above water on that end so the defense could be great.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's like you need to, you need to basically like. There's a value in just. It's kind of like the Randle thing, right? Like when Randle was really good in 2020, 2021, but our offense was like 23rd in the league. It didn't really matter because you're like, well, without him, our offense might be like fucking bottom of the barrel, like never get a bucket type of thing. Um, all right, yeah, but we never answered this. Damian Lillard.
I'd say Dame. I would take him, but it's close.
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna say, like I think it's toss up, so I just said maybe. All right, so here's the final list. We both said we'd take Giannis as a number one offensive option again to frame the context. Number one offensive option only. That's it. That's the only context here. Giannis, we both said yes. Embiid, I said no. You said yes. Tatum, both said yes. SGA, I said no. You said yes. Luka, both said yes. Butler, both said no. Brown, both said no. Jokic, both said yes. Spida, both said no. Steph, both said yes. Randle, both said no. LeBron, I said maybe. You said yes. Sabonis, both said no. Fox, both said no. Lillard, I said maybe. You said yes. Apparently, I think more of Jalen Brunson than you do by a very slight margin. But
You're a better Knicks fan than I am, Shwin.
I know. But like, so just if we use your list, okay, you basically took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys that made the All NBA teams over Jalen Brunson offensively. I took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I had 1, 2, 3 maybes. I believe. No, I had 2 maybes. So I have Jalen Brunson as the 6th best offensive player, apparently among the All NBA selections anyway, and you had him as the 10th best among All NBA selections. So my question to you and why I wanted to do this is this. There's all this talk about like, oh, the Knicks need to get a true star. They need to get this. That like, is Jalen Brunson a true star? Like, is he good enough to be the guy that you commit all your resources to maximizing, optimizing, putting the right pieces around? Is he the center of the Knicks' solar system? And should he be?